Good morning. If you watched the last episode of the Go Gently podcast or listened to the One Thing Today podcast, the audio version of this video podcast, you'll know that last time I was away at one of my favourite places, Gladstone's Library in North Wales. And for me, one of the things about going away is it often feels like it wakes me up a bit and makes me want to do more exciting things. And it was so lovely to be out in the world and to meet some people and just to feel more part of things, I suppose. But I came back feeling very tired, and I've had a few days resting, quite a lot of time in bed. But that feeling of wanting to do interesting and exciting things hasn't gone away, and it is a bit of a danger for me. And I've been looking at walks that I could take with you and realising that just now isn't the time to do it. So this time we're back walking in the woods at Trawsgoed near the river, which is over there. I'm not sure we're going to get to the river today, but we're currently walking through a grove of beech trees. Lots of frost around, no snow at the moment here, but actually it looks like there's been hail. It looks like the white on the ground is hail, but snow is promised. But it's lovely and crisp this morning. However, I've packed myself a little picnic to bring with me this morning. It's about 8:15, maybe 8:30 by now, so it's early. So I've got my breakfast in my bag, and just preparing breakfast to bring out a flask of coffee and a sandwich really makes this walk feel a little bit special. So it's added that little tinge of excitement that I feel like I need at the moment. That's sort of slightly out of the ordinary that I'm craving a little bit, but without actually stretching myself beyond what is possible. So would you like to join me for a walk and a tiny adventure? This is the 19th Go Gently podcast and the 1442nd episode of One Thing Today. It is lovely to be out this morning. I'm wearing, I should have showed them to you when I was doing the introduction. I'm wearing some rather magical gloves that someone very kindly knitted for me, that turn into mittens, so I can have my fingers out when I'm filming. And I'm just going to put the other one over my fingers, and then I can cover my fingers when I don't need them, which is perfect for today because it's very cold. It's a very cold, very crisp morning here in Wales. I had to spend a little bit of time this morning defrosting my car before I could come out, so it's taken me a little while to prepare for this walk. I cooked myself some veggie sausages and made a sandwich, made a pot of coffee, heated some milk for that as well and put that in my flask mug, packed my bag and then went out to the car and defrosted it. So the whole preparation for this walk probably took me half an hour maybe. And I do think there's something quite special about making preparations like that and getting provisions together when we come out. It makes things feel extra special. And if you've listened to the One Thing Today podcast for any length of time, you'll know that I often take what I call tiny adventures, little excursions, often not far from home, sometimes even at home, but doing things a little bit differently once I'm preparing for things, and also when I'm actually doing it a little bit differently. So maybe at a strange time, or walking in a different direction, or going somewhere that I know well, but looking for something a little different when I get there. And I do seem rather excited about the idea about tiny adventures again. For me, they're often a summer thing. I was in the habit of recording a set of Tiny Adventure podcasts in the summer when I was taking a break from daily podcasting. I'd have a set of Tiny Adventure podcasts ready to go out, and they were lovely. And I suppose the summer feels a bit like a time of adventure, but this winter, I've been a bit excited about them again. And if you saw the last video podcast, you'll know that I was crocheting, having a work session in Gladstone's Library's lounge at 5:30 in the morning, which felt a little bit naughty and a little bit exciting all at once. Really enjoyed doing that. And if you're following me on Patreon, you may have seen the vlog post I made again very early in the morning. I think it was about 4 a.m. At the beginning of the week, beginning of last week, when I was out looking for the eclipse that we had here. Well, we had everywhere, not everywhere, but I think if you're in the northern hemisphere, you had a very good chance of seeing it. And it was about 4. Well, I think it was between about 4:45 and 4:45 at its peak here, and I was out in the dark looking for that, and that felt like a rather special tiny adventure as well. So I wonder if tiny adventures are a little bit of a salve for me at the moment, when I'm not really able to do very much, but I can give myself some of what I need. And a frosty morning walk with a picnic in my bag feels rather special. Gosh, it's quite icy. I wonder if you can see the ice. It's not quite hard enough to crack, but it does look rather lovely. I was walking here yesterday afternoon, wrapped up much as I am today, and it was just very, very muddy, though the air was quite chilled and the sky was quite clear, so I suspected today would be a cold, frosty day, and it is. I have to admit, I'm rather excited about the prospect of snow. When I came back from Gladstone's Library, there was snow on the mountain road as I got close to home. It's about, I don't know, 15 miles from here, where I leave the mountain road, and as we came down, the snow got thinner and thinner. By the time I was home, it was gone. But I think it's still there on the mountains, and I think probably it's on its way here as well. So fingers crossed. Right, here is a place where I make a choice about which walk to take. Straight ahead is the short walk that I often do with you here, and to the right is a slightly longer walk. I mean, this one breaks in two as well, so there's a choice again with this one. And we're going to take this one, though possibly not do all of the walk, because a little way along there is a bench, and I was thinking it would be rather lovely to sit there with my picnic if it's not too cold. It is lovely to walk here and see all the white and the frost. Just see the sun coming up through the trees. If you can see that, perhaps you can just about if you're watching the video. We're on the east side of the wood, so it's much chillier here, and it takes a long time for the sun to reach this side. In fact, I suspect it probably doesn't really get very sunny here this time of year. The grove of beech trees, which we walked through at the beginning, is in spring, is full of bluebells, and I suspect it is such a good spot for bluebells precisely because it doesn't get a huge amount of direct sunlight. Just coming up now to a little copse of I think beech trees again, actually. I always think it looks rather special here. The trees against the sky, and the sky's looking very blue, very clear this morning, which is probably why it is so cold. Oh, I'm just going to swap hands. I hope I don't. Oh, I swapped hands, and I think I turned the filming off, but I've turned it back on again. I think we're okay. And I don't think my hand is in the way of the camera. Ooh, even in gloves, it gets quite chilly holding up the camera. So quiet. Still very squelchy underfoot, even though it's so cold. I suppose the trees protect the ground a little as well as from the sun, from the cold. Though it does get very icy here. I suspect as the month goes on, or it turns into February, it's going to get colder still and harder underfoot. Part of the reason I decided just to seize the day this morning was that I wondered if it would be too icy to drive out for a walk later on in the week. As it was, the road across the bridge as I take just before I get here was very icy. There was someone in front of me driving very gingerly, which I was rather grateful for because it alerted me to just how icy it was. So I went very slowly, but I suspect the rest of the road had been gritted. I wonder if that bit was just the point where the gritting stopped. Lovely just to see the sun lighting little bits of the ground. Well, that didn't go quite to plan. I'm very sorry. I wonder if it was a bit of an indicator that I was pushing things a little too far. Both the phone that I was recording the walk on and my backup iPod both ran out of power. I spent a little bit of time turning them on and off again before I finally gave up and decided that actually there wasn't any power and it wasn't going to work, and I did the rest of that walk just by myself, which actually was quite nice. I got to the bench. It was a little bit too cold to sit there, so I carried on walking, and I did do the circular walk in the end. I walked round to the river and walked along the river back to my car, and I was quite surprised because on the riverside of the walk it was much icier than I thought it was going to be, and much icier than the bit of the wood that we've been in together. I suppose it makes sense really, it's probably more exposed, but I hadn't, for some reason, I'd thought the other side was going to be the colder side, I don't know why. So I had a very gentle stroll back to the car, and I had my picnic in the car, which was very nice. But I was a little bit frustrated that both my phone and my backup iPod rather, both were out of juice, and yeah, it sort of left me thinking that perhaps I was overdoing it a little bit. Dear, never mind. So it's actually a couple of days later now that I'm sitting here with you in my sitting room with the fire behind me. In fact, the fire hasn't been burning very well either, but the chimney sweep came and looked at it a couple of days ago, and it's all better now. So as you can see, it's roaring away, which is very nice indeed. So, would you like to join me for a 20-minute work session? I haven't replaced my timer yet, which I think I might have said in the last episode I was going to do, or maybe I said I decided not to for the time being. Because I have a ticking clock in the background, I realised that the timer and the clock ticking were kind of fighting against each other. So, for the time being, while I'm recording these sessions in the house instead of my studio, so probably for the rest of this month and through February, I shall just use my iPod for timing. So there we are, 20 minutes on the clock. I still get the ticking. I don't know if you can hear it or not through my microphone, but I still get the nice tick as I work, and I do enjoy that. So yes, I wonder how your week is going. I have been very tired since I've been back from Gladstone's library, and I have been feeling a little bit impatient with myself about that. I've been trying not to, but I have been. And as I was saying in the first half of this, sort of still craving that sort of out of the ordinariness, that sort of excitement from being somewhere different, which for me at this time of year is a bit of a danger, because it does mean perhaps I'm pushing myself. I mean, I thought when I recorded the walk for this podcast that actually I'd picked the gentlest option, and I think I had, but perhaps it was still too much. I was surprised how upset I felt when the power ran out on my phone. My immediate thought was that I'll have to do it again. I'll have to do another walk. And I think I realised quite quickly that I was just really wasn't feeling up to doing another walk either that day or this week. So I decided just to go with the truncated walk. And that's okay. I mean, these podcasts are about what's going on, what's really going on. So what really happened was that my phone ran out of juice for whatever reason. I had thought it was charged up, and I certainly thought my iPod was charged up. So I did wonder whether it was the cold that was making things worse. Maybe it just ran down more quickly because of the cold. I don't know whether that's likely or not. But anyway. So I think I made a good choice just to decide that the podcast is just what it is this week. Not perfect, but okay. And it was still nice. I still felt like I had a tiny adventure once I got over the frustration. I did enjoy the rest of the walk. I kept thinking it would be really nice to be sharing this, but you know, I think, of course, it's fine to have walks by ourselves. I don't need to be sharing them all. And that actually got me thinking a little bit about time away and just having time just completely to myself, which I think has been a good thing to think about. And I think I am going to take a bit of time off, perhaps have an offline week next week. Possibly, I'm probably having it as you're watching this. In fact, I'm probably having an offline week, which I do find restful in a different way than just taking a bit of time away from doing things but still being online. I don't always manage it successfully, but when I do, it does feel refreshing. The last time I did it successfully was back in November, middle of November, and I had a week off. So hopefully as you're watching this, I'm successfully offline. I think I'll be able to be, actually. I think I feel ready for it. We will see. But I'm enjoying the notion of tiny adventures at the moment. Though I think perhaps this is the time for planning them and thinking about them rather than maybe executing them. I think I need to sink back a bit, which I thought I was doing, but I'm not sure that I managed it very successfully this week. Sink back into sort of hibernation again after my trip away. And maybe an offline week will help me do that. Actually, it'll help me reset things a little bit, because I'm not ready to be doing a lot out in the world, even though I've got a taste for it. So how's your week been, I wonder? What have you been up to? Are you feeling up to being out in the world, planning? I wonder if I'm approaching wanting to plan, actually. I really didn't want to. I mean, the end of last year I was so ready just to pull down the hatches, batten down the hatches, and hibernate. But I wonder if I'm slightly more ready to plan, so maybe planning some tiny adventures, having a start to have a think about the shape I'd like the year ahead to be, just a little. I don't know, we'll see. So yes, I wonder, are you in a planning mood? I didn't put my stitch marker back in when I started this round. Let's just do that. What are you working on at the moment? This is the last round of this, and the last section of this cushion cover. So I shall be putting it together once I finish this round. I mean, I do have an idea in my head how I'm doing it, but I really am making this up as I go along. I'm hoping it's going to be alright. I'm going to be seeing the friend who it's for in a few days. It would be nice. It would be nice to have it finished by then. I think probably it was the last one of these creativity sessions that I said in that I thought I might just make another cushion after this one. Now I sort of feel like I've kind of got the process right for making these sections. It might be nice to make another one while it's still fresh in my mind. Though this morning I was looking at the socks that I'm midway through, and I was thinking it'd be really nice to do a bit of work on those as well. So maybe I'll do that next week, because I find working on socks in these sessions a bit difficult because I tend to need to count. I'm hoping I might get past counting eventually, but at the moment it takes a lot of concentration making socks for me, so it doesn't really lend itself well to these sessions. So I might work on that next week, assuming this is finished, and then when I'm back I will perhaps make another cushion cover, or start work on the blanket, the second blanket that I'm planning. Nice to have something to be lost in February, I think. I want to make the most of this quiet hibernatory time. So I sort of want to double down on it somehow in February, and it would be nice to have a project that I can feel a bit lost in while I'm doing that. Not one with any pressure attached to it, but just something to be a bit lost in. And a good book as well. I've got a couple of books reserved at the library, one of which is waiting for me at the moment, which would be nice to get hold of. Making plans again, aren't I? Like when I went to Gladstone's library, I had all these plans, and I'm glad that I just let myself not follow through with them. Didn't push myself to do them, but it is strange, isn't it, when we sort of plan a bit of time, or we think we set aside a bit of time, how quickly we feel we need to plan what to put in it. Actually, I don't need to do that. Perhaps it's nice to have possibilities, actually. Perhaps that's what's good. Perhaps that's a good thing. Possibilities of things to do, but not oughts and shoulds. Even nice things can turn into oughts and shoulds, can't they? I mean, it's not that any of the things I'm thinking about are unpleasant at all, but it's just the weight of them sometimes. It just detracts from the relaxed rest that actually feels so important at the moment. And it was quite nice having a pile of books by my bed at Gladstone's library. Once I decided I didn't need to read them, it was quite nice to have them there. And just letting myself dip into the one I was reading. And it was nice having this to reach for when I wanted to. It was nice sitting in the Gladstone room doing a little crocheting. But it was also really nice sitting in the Gladstone room just staring into space, and I think next week could do with the space to stare into space. The space for staring into space. Yes. Staring space. It's much milder here today than it was when we went for our walk and our tiny adventure. Cloudy and grey, which is probably why it's warmer, part of the reason it's warmer. When I was driving back from the walk, I passed a couple of cars that had snow on them, so obviously not much higher up was the snow, and actually I could see it as I was driving back on the higher hills just up the road, which I hadn't noticed as I was driving down to the woods. That was behind me. But I suspect actually it'll have melted today, which is a bit of a shame, though it might well be back. I think the forecast, the sort of medium-ish term forecast, is still for quite a cold snap, and I am hopeful for it. There's something very restful about snow. I was reading somewhere, can't remember where now, about how snow days are being replaced by e-working days. So people who are snowed in are really encouraged to work from home instead of taking on an impromptu day off, and the same for schools as well. I just think, well, that just was so awful. So lovely to have those impromptu days off because of the weather, and if we can't have those, I just think that's awful. I think having them sort of trains us, especially if we have them as children. It sort of lets us learn that it is sometimes possible just to take an impromptu day off, and there's something so satisfying about an impromptu day off. I think it's so much more satisfying taking a day off when there's something that needs to be done than when the decks are clear. I mean, that's probably very perverse, but it feels like that. It does. It's kind of letting ourselves off the hook. We kind of relax, and waking up to snow. And here, I mean, we do get snowed in from time to time. We haven't for a couple of years now, I don't think, but I mean, most winters it happens. And it is just so lovely. I mean, there's the quiet, the road, hardly anyone goes by on the road because our road doesn't get gritted. So it's, when we're snowed in, there's hardly any cars about. There's the silence, and it's impossible to do a lot of things, and that is so lovely. The decision is taken away from us, and that is so lovely. So I hope this trend to replace them with sort of e-working or e-learning doesn't take hold. To fight for the right for snow days, I think. It's interesting, even, I can set my own schedule pretty much, but there's still an extra level of this when it snows. So yes, I'm hopeful for snow. We get quite a lot of power cuts here too, and whilst it is a bit inconvenient at times, it's also quite nice. Again, it's kind of reducing options, and there's the fire, so it doesn't get too cold here. I've got a little portable gas cooker, so I can usually cook something. And again, there's a different level of silence when the power's off. I mean, if it's off for too long, it starts to be a nuisance because things in the freezer will start to defrost. But, for a day, it's okay and rather nice. Get the candles out. I can still listen to the radio. I've got batteries for my radio, so I could, if I wanted, have a little radio. There we are. There, how did you get on? I hope you've had a good 20 minutes. I am tantalisingly close to finishing this last section. But I shall stop now, I think. Perhaps top my tea up. Thank you for watching. It's been lovely to go for a walk with you, have a tiny adventure with you, and I'm sorry that it didn't go quite to plan and was rather truncated, but never mind, there will be plenty more. Why not organise a tiny adventure of your own, or if you're not quite ready for having one, why not plan one? I do think the anticipation of tiny adventures is part of the magic of them, so planning them well in advance is a lovely thing. So if energy is low and you're not able to take a tiny adventure, and tiny adventures don't necessarily have to be big expeditions, in fact, you know, by definition they should be quite small, so you could have one at home even. But if you're not ready for that, why not plan some? Why not spend some time planning some possible tiny adventures, something slightly out of the ordinary, something that perhaps gives you a slightly different view of the world, and something probably that includes packing some provisions. Take care. Thanks for watching. I shall see you next time. If you do enjoy these podcasts, please do subscribe to them here on YouTube. Click that little bell icon and you'll be told when the next one is out. I'm being a little less regular with these than I was when I started. I was aiming to get them out every Saturday when I started. I'm realising that that's just not possible for me. So they come out at different times during the week. But I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 most months, I imagine. So yes, do subscribe, do tell your friends if you think you know someone who might enjoy them. I'd be very grateful if you would help spread the word. And if you are able to support me, do pop over to Patreon and see what I offer there. More work sessions like this and some other goodies as well. So lots of behind the scenes stuff and some regular vlog posts as well about my life here on the side of my hill. Take care. I shall see you very soon. Have a lovely week. Maybe you'd like to join me offline or not join me. Whatever. Whatever makes sense. Take care. Bye bye.